How you doing, YouTube? It's Will from Will Development. It's my 355th weekly update. This should be a pretty quick one. No, because I'm doing a comp recap. I'll do a separate video just for that, recapping the actual Europa full strongman competition that happened on Saturday. The long and the short of it is, if you compare me to other people that were there, I have shown improvement. Basically, it took me almost 7 comps before I wasn't last place in a group, and that was at Orlando's? Was that my last comp? I think it was Orlando's. Was my last competition I did, and I managed to knock it last place. And then at this competition, there was actually more people in it. That comp, there was only 5 of us, and then this one there was, I think there was at least 9 or 10 of us in there. I think there was 10, because I remember somebody getting like 10 points for first place. So I think there was at least 9, maybe 10 of us. I got 3rd from last in this one, so I'm still in the bottom percentage of competitors, but I managed to do better than a few guys at a few events. Still suck at pressing, unfortunately, but I wasn't the only one who zeroed both pressing implements that day, so my farmers and my grip probably saved me from being last, honestly, and also being able to pull the deadlift. That was a super PR. That's the most weight I've ever pulled off the ground. Not from any height, but from a conventional deadlift stance, I should say. Not height. It was approximately 13 inches. I think it was a little bit lower, because they had it on tires that put it at 18, and then they put us on essentially a pallet, but the pallet was not 5 inches high. The pallet was probably like 3.5 to 4 inches high, so it was probably more like a 14-inch pull. So I guess it was higher, actually, right? Yeah, 14's higher than 13. So it's probably a little higher. Either way, anything in that range really sucks. If you deadlift at all, deadlifting from standard height, which is 9 inches, I don't know what it is in centimeters, but it's 9 inches in American, and then 18 inches, which is obviously just double that height. Both of those are, comfortable is not the right word, but they feel right for most people. I mean, even talking to basically everybody there, they all agreed with me that it was just like, yeah, either standard height is great, because that's what we all work with all the time, because it's low enough to the point where you can still sort of get the break from the floor a little bit with your quads. And then an 18-inch pull is double that height, so instead of being like essentially just where my high tops cut off, it's like just above mid shin, like right below the kneecap, on someone like me who's about 5'9"-ish, 5'8.5", 5'9", depends on who measures my height, honestly, and if I've run yoke recently. But that's to the point where you won't really get that quad break, but your glutes and your hamstrings and your upper back are in a better position. Advantageous is probably too strong of a word to use, but a better position to pull. If you think about it, once you break it from the ground and you get to, honestly, about 18 inches, the challenge then becomes keeping, obviously, your low back rigid, but let's just pretend that's going to be fine the whole time. Your upper back and your glutes and your hamstrings now have to do a ton of work from that point up. So when you just start to pull at 18 inches, you don't have the strength to to break from the floor with your quads so much anymore, just because of where it is. So it makes it different, but you're not completely disadvantaged. You're in a good position for the other half of the pull, essentially. When you start from somewhere like 10 is close enough to 9 where you don't feel it, 17 is close enough to 18 where it's not so different. But once you get into that like sweet spot of 12 to about 15 inches, maybe even 16-inch pulls, it's very difficult because it's just out of the range to where you can get that quad break, and it's just out of the range where you have maximum pulling potential with the upper back, the glutes, and the hamstrings, that kind of thing. So it's a very difficult position to pull from. Long story short, I was super excited to be able to actually pull that weight. It was 495. I only pulled it for one. Fresh, maybe I would have had more in me and maybe even been able to utilize the balance. But on that day, that took everything I had. And I don't want to say it was a mistake to do it because I'm glad I did it. But I feel like had I not done that, had I just, not said no to the event, but just even attempted it, gotten halfway through and said no, and not just pushed, I probably would have been able to do the stone later on that day. But, that's strongman. I just have to get stronger in general. More than one guy failed that pull, so that felt good to be stronger on that day than a couple people at least. And then the farmers, of the people that finished, I think 3 didn't even complete it, and then the other, it must have been 9 competitors, the other 6 of us all completed it. I was the slowest. After reviewing stuff, the handles were supposed to be 255 a hand, and they were actually 275 a hand. So they were 20 pounds heavier than they were supposed to be, which I didn't realize at the time. And normally farmers are my just bread and butter. Normally, I've never run farmers at any distance. It's never taken me longer than 10 to 12 seconds. I mean, it's like 20 or 22 seconds, I think. Really, really slow. And part of it was it took almost all my power just to stand up with it. Very heavy weight. 275 a hand, that's what, 5? That would be 450, and then you add another 50, so 500 pounds-ish, right? Am I just bad at math? I mean, I know I'm bad at math, but let's see. Let me just verify. Probably something I could have done before, huh? Yeah, 550. That's actually the most weight I've ever pulled off the ground, or I should say it ties for it. I did a pull on a frame deadlift one time with 550, and that was what I called it at. So that's definitely right there with the most, and I weighed 200 pounds when I did that with the 550. No excuse, there's guys who are just able to move faster. The only, it's going to sound like an excuse, but it's not. It's just explaining what happened. I just done a national record on the farmer's hold the day before. Thank God my grip is to the point where I can still pick up almost, most things you put in my hands. My hand's not what's going to fail. Even after doing that and exhausting my grip, I was still able to hold on to him, pick him, and start walking with him. Part of my speed, and I don't know if it's worked this way for everybody, I need to talk to some other guys about it just to get the ideas, but my theory is that why I'm usually so good at farmers is because my grip is to the point where I can almost run and the shaking of the handles doesn't bother me because my hands are so strong. It doesn't matter what the weight is. My grip was slipping the second I started pulling. And when I stood up with him, I mean, normally it's nice and tight, but I was here the whole time, just barely holding on. And so I was like, well, just get through it, don't drop it, and let's just finish the event. You'll still get more points than not finishing it. So that's what I did. So yeah, that was a little bit of a comp recap, and the whole reason I talked about it so much this time is uh, I took the week off. I took the week off from training, from going to the gym, I should say. Uh, Worked on some programming, just kind of putting this, that, and the other, some ideas, and some other things that I feel like were missing from a previous program, and sat down and just wrote it all out for the next 4 to 5 weeks or so, because I do have the Scorcher coming up. That there's a couple events there I want to perform very well at, especially for the Dinny Stone Hold. How do I put this? The last time I did a Dinny Hold, I won the group I was in. I didn't beat the Superclass time just because I forgot it existed, but I could have. I am aiming to be undefeated at this kind of event. Currently the national record holder, in USS anyway, for the Farmer's Hold in my weight class, and I would like to be in a Strongman Corp show undefeated in my weight class for a Dinny Stone Hold as well. Problem is there's no actual record for that, but these kind of events are events I'm really good at, where it's just hold on to something and don't move. Part of it is my good grip strength, but another part of it is just like my ability to just say I don't care. I don't care if my hand rips off. Let's just do this. You know what I mean? There is that pain barrier that some people can push through and can't. I'm not saying I am one of those people, because there's times, like for instance this last comp on the Stone, where there was so much pain the second I went into extension that I just put it down. I was like, no, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? I'm hurting, but I'm not injured right now, and I don't want to injure myself for one stone over the bar that's basically just going to make me feel better about it later. It's not worth anything right now, and I was already riding pretty high from the Nationals record achievement. So with the Dinny Stone Hold, and with just holds in general, for some reason I'm just able to just kind of do it. It doesn't, yeah, it hurts, especially on a Dinny Hold. I am going to be doing hook grip, which a lot of strongmen do not practice. And I mean, I've been in the game for a little bit now. I don't think I'm the guy who can give a lot of advice necessarily. I've picked up tips and tricks, but one thing I've always told people is practice hook grip every once in a while, because especially if you compete in strongman, you're going to come across Dinny rings eventually, or rings of some kind, very small, thin pieces of metal that you're going to be asked to hold on to. And with hook grip in your back pocket, being able to use that and being able to describe it the way I've always described it, which is uncomfortable, not painful, it's uncomfortable. Having that ability is going to increase your numbers exponentially. Because once you can hook grip something, it's no longer about how strong your grip is. It's really about how much pain you can deal with. Because the grip aspect kind of gets taken out of it. Because especially when you look at hook grip, right? How does it work on a deadlift? Normally on a deadlift, when you're pulling, the bar is rubbing against your body and it's spiraling. It's spinning the exact way that would open your hands, which is why deadlifts are such a good grip exercise. But once you add the hook in, right, and then you've got your thumb here, and the bar wants to rotate, the bar is actually rotating and tightening into the thumb even more, so your grip actually goes up. That's why mixed grip works so well, because one hand is getting tightened as the other one gets loosened, and it basically just stays neutral. So that's my not pro tip to be really good at Dinny holds. Do hook grip. Does hook grip transfer to real grip? I'm not sure. I've seen some people say no, not at all. For my money, I say it helps a little bit, just for the simple fact that you have to hold your hand closed. It's not like straps where, and I'm not talking figure eights. Figure eights are cheating. Fight me. Like Olympic straps, like I use on everything but axle, because it won't fit on an axle. But those style straps, you still have to hold your hands closed in order for them to work. And if you don't, if you just open them, it just unravels and drops. So same idea with hook grip, in my opinion, where you have to be crushing your thumb a little bit, and even though the bar is spinning and tightening your grip, if you do this, your thumb's not going to hold it. So things to think about. Not a very quick video, huh? I guess I lied. I do that sometimes. Anyway, that's my not pro tip. Practice hook grip. Get uncomfortable. If you don't, actually look forward to the comp footage coming out soon. I'm not going to say Wednesday. I should have time this weekend to work on it. We'll see. And a comp recap video too coming out. That'll come out before the footage, but I'll do them both. Even though this is kind of a mini comp recap, I still have plenty more to talk about, as always, right? But yeah, do hook grip. And if you don't, then what's your excuse?